The day before 4th of July, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F was released on Netflix, so of course I watched, so let's review. So Beverly Hills Cop Axel F takes place 40 years after the first film and 30 years after the last film, Beverly Hills Cop 3. We see Axel Foley. He is a much older person, and he's played once again by Eddie Murphy. 40 years later of playing this character. He has a daughter that gets threatened for taking a case. His daughter happens to live in Beverly Hills, and so, of course, he goes there to investigate while also trying to reconnect with his estranged daughter. Now, the weak parts when this movie came out, I watched the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy for the first time, and long story short, the first one's classic and understandably why. The second one I admire for Tony Scott's filmmaking. The third one, less said the better. But overall, I'm not as attached to this trilogy as I am many others are because I watched this at this point in my life. So had I seen it earlier in my life, maybe I would have appreciated it and regarded it more. But for where I stand right now, it's just one of those franchises that I'm only gonna say I don't care for, but regardless, I do understand the hype. It is a it is a franchise that pretty much reinvented the modern buddy cop franchise. But as for this fourth film, yeah, we've seen many times nothing good. Sometimes something good can come from a sequel that is decades after the last film, but sometimes we can see that sometimes it just doesn't work out. Case in point, Coming to America. And sometimes it could actually be good. Case in point, Top Gun Maverick. But I came into this movie with an open mind because I don't have any real loyalty to the original movies. And so, how do I felt? I felt this was actually a pretty good sequel, and well, it's definitely better than the third film, that's for sure. But I say this is more so in line with the first film in a way, because it's definitely a sequel that maintains the spirit of the original films, but at the same time, it's a Beverly Hills Cop movie that just happens to take place in 2024. It has some old spices to it, but then it has some new spices to it, even right down to the music, because you definitely feel the 80s vibe in this film, which definitely won the hearts of a lot of people and a lot of the hearts of the fans of the original movies. But I'm also saying it maintains the spirit of the originals because the action is on point. It is all practical, well, practical for the most part. It's definitely a Beverly Hills Cop movie where the action feels authentic. There's no CGI BS in there. Eddie Murphy still has it as Axel Foley. He definitely came back to this character correct. He was funny, but at the same time, he was Axel Foley in 2024. He's much older, he's more mature. And there's even some moments of acting that we saw from Eddie Murphy in this film because, like I said, he's trying to reconnect with his estranged daughter. I can appreciate it when a sequel that comes out decades after the last film, a legacy sequel, if you will, I appreciate it when the movie has the balls to progress the characters, while at the same time still maintain what we love about those characters. As for the returning characters, we got Judge Reinhold, John Ashton returning here, the original big trinity from the original films, and I just love how the two of them, they just look like they were just happy to be there. They also still have it as these characters. Eddie Murphy still is able to bounce back off of them, and they're able to bounce off him. And like I said, they still progress these characters while at the same time still maintain what we love about them. And plus, they're both at different points in their life. Judge Reinhold's character, he's kind of disillusioned himself from the police force, while at the same time, John Ashton's character, he is now the captain of the Beverly Hills Police Force. Paul Reiser even returns, and he is now the chief of the Detroit Police. Even Surge returns in this movie. As for the newer characters, like I mentioned, we get Eddie Murphy's daughter in the film, and she's played by Taylor Page, who I've seen in many other things, and she's great in. She's one of those actresses that's on the come up, and I love seeing her in anything new coming up. But I like the father-daughter relationship between them because it is estranged, and both of them, they come to their own conclusions and understand why things happened the way they were. And I thought Taylor Page, she was able to work off Eddie Murphy, while at the same time she's also bringing the good actor we know Eddie Murphy to be. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in the film, which I have not seen in anything in a long time, and I'm glad to see him here. But he's basically the new blood within the Beverly Hills police force, and he's kind of a by the book person. But then once things really start getting out of hand, and he becomes disillusioned with what's happening with the Beverly Hills Police Department, he basically breaks away and works with Eddie Murphy and crew. Kevin Bacon is in the movie, and he's great here, and that's all I'm gonna say. Just go see the movie, and you see what becomes of his character. But judging from the fact that he's even in this movie, I think you might know what's gonna become of this character in the movie. Like I said, the action was great, the humor was hilarious, and there's even some nostalgic moments in this movie that goes back to the original films, but they don't overdo it. They're like, all right, look, we still have a story to tell. We'll sprinkle in some nostalgia here and there. Like, there's even a moment in the movie that resembles a scene from one of the original movies where Eddie Murphy, he's about to check into a Beverly Hills hotel, and he does this whole shtick with an accent, and you get that here, but then he just stops and goes, I'm tired. Can I just get a hotel room? That got a big laugh out of me when I saw it. And that's one of the other things I like about this movie is just how meta it is. It's like we know what this movie is, and we're gonna acknowledge it in a subtle way. Overall, like I said, this movie is basically a Beverly Hills Cop movie made in 2024, but at the same time, it still maintains the spirit of the original films. And yeah, it does even still follow that old format of, oh, something happens in Beverly Hills, and Axel Foley, he goes over there to investigate and help the Beverly Hills police force. But Eddie Murphy still has it as Axel Foley. He's definitely the heart of this movie, and he definitely holds this movie together and brings the best out of people, while at the same time make this movie work after it came out 40 years after the original, 30 years after the last film. And that's why I gave Beverly Hills Cop Axel F the thumbs up emoji.